So this procedure is if you've got a domain controller and you've just migrated to a domain controller and you want to rename the new one to the name of the old one. So, as you can see, domain-wise, I'm pretty simple. I've got my MSDCS and I've got my forward-looking zone for my domain. So we're going to assume that there's some mess in there that we need to tidy away for that old domain controller name. And rather than dig through DNS by hand, I'm going to use PowerShell. Now I'm going to copy and paste the commands in. I'll put a link to the website, so I'm parsing all the records within my MSDCS domain. And then to recall what they are, just simply call that variable back. Now I can see that there aren't any records here that point to my old domain controller, which is called LAN 2019. This is all stuff that's pointing to the new one, and the old IP was .10. So I know that there's nothing I need to clean out of my underscore MSDCS domain. So let's have a look at my forward lookup zone for my main domain. I'm going to do exactly the same, but this time I'm going to pull all records back from my domain. Now in a production domain, obviously you're going to get a lot more back than I got, but even I can see on this list here, there's a reference to my old domain controller there. .10 is its old IP address. There it is there. You can see it's pretty much littered about all over the place in DNS, so I'm going to want to tidy that away if I'm going to rename my new domain controller to the old name of LAN 2019. So I'm taking all the records and passing them into there that match the IP address of the old domain controller. The reason why it's in twice the name is I'm pulling back name server records and I'm pulling back actual records data that equate to the old server name. And now again, to see what's actually been passed into that, I'm just going to pipe out the records, and you can see there's all the records that match my old domain controller that I want to get rid of. So to get rid of them, notice there's what if on the end of this command, so it's not actually going to delete them, it's just going to tell me what it's going to do, and that pretty much is exactly what we want it to do. So I'm just going to recall the last command and just take the what if off the end, and it will delete those records. Annoyingly, there isn't a option to say yes to all, so you're going to have to type a Y in to respond yes for each record you want to delete. And I'll just clear my screen there. Now, even if you had a successful clean demotion, there'll still be some junk. Let's have a look in the reverse lookup zone, and you can see there's still a record in there for the old DC. Let's delete that out. If I look in AD users and computers, now I've demoted and removed the old server from the domain, but it's still sat there as a disabled computer object, so I'm going to remove that from the domain. And lastly, sites and services doesn't do a good job of removing the old domain controllers, so I'm going to manually remove it from there as well. Now this was a server that was successfully demoted, removed from the domain. This is just all the junk that's been left behind. So that's pretty much all the remnants of my old server name now removed. So I can rename this server to the name of the old one. And to do that, I use a netdom command, and I add as a secondary name the name that I want it to be. You'll see why in a minute. I don't actually rename the server, I add it as a secondary name. And now if you recall your last command and just everything after the add switch, type in enumerate and it will show you the names or the fully qualified domain names that are logged against this machine. And you can see that the primary one is 2025 at the top list and the secondary one is 2019. The next thing I want to do is change the secondary name so that it is now the primary name. Now as soon as you do that, it will ask you to reboot machine, restart computer, and let it gracefully reboot. And we'll log back on again. Now I'm going to open an administrative PowerShell window again. Now the thing to remember is at this point the host name and the FQDN of this machine has actually changed. So our commands are now going to be prefaced with LAN 2019 as the name of the server. So if I just do an enumerate, you'll be able to see that LAN 2019 is now the primary name, and its secondary name is the old name of LAN 2025. So to remove LAN 2025, simply execute the following command again. There'll be a link below the video so you can go to the website and download all the commands. And then just to make sure it's not all smoke and mirrors, do an enumerate and you'll see that the only name left is LAN 2019. That's our domain controller successfully renamed. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to come and visit us, www.peaknetlive.com.